I'm guessing, conferred with the Department of Justice, because you're named on this lawsuit, sir. These are all the transactions from the president as well. That I'm going to ask you this next question as well. Or is this only for President Trump and his affiliates?
That's the Secretary of the Treasury being told by a sitting senator that his own staff is visibly panicking behind him. Stay with me, this gets worse, and it matters more than you think. I'm Marcus Reed. Normally on this channel we talk about power balances between states. Today I want to talk about something that looks domestic but isn't. Not really. Because how a government treats its own rule of law is exactly the kind of data point authoritarian regimes collect and weaponize in their own propaganda. Senate Finance Committee, June 3rd. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent questioned by Senator Ben Ray Lujan over a $1.776 billion settlement fund and a secret addendum tied to President Trump's lawsuit against the IRS. Let's go through what was actually said.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Bessent, should Americans who illegally evade their taxes be investigated and prosecuted?
Yes.
Secretary Bessent, should people and organizations facilitating money laundering for Iran, North Korea, or Hamas be prosecuted?
Yes.
What about laundering money for Mexican drug cartels?
Yes.
Should a person who traded and profited on insider information be prosecuted?
According to the law, they should.
Appreciate that. Mr. Secretary, as a result of President Trump's $10 billion lawsuit, the Department of Justice, on behalf of your department, settled with President Trump by creating a $1.776 billion slush fund to pay for his supporters and criminals. Were you either directly or through your staff asked to sign the original agreement?
Senator, you were not here at the early part of the meeting.
I saw you on TV.
Well, congratulations, and you would know that I'm unable to answer those questions, and they should be referred to
Mr. Secretary, what about the addendum to this agreement? Are you familiar with what the addendum is?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Are you familiar with this giveaway from the IRS that says President Trump and anyone that knows him or does business with him or part of a business, they get off scot-free? Are you aware of this?
Again, I refer you to Attorney General Blanche.
Are you Attorney General Blanche's client?
The IRS and Treasury are a client of the Department of Justice.
Notice what just happened. A direct question, are you aware of an addendum granting the president and his affiliates permanent exemption from IRS enforcement, got answered with an organizational chart. Treasury is a client of DOJ. That's not a denial. That's not a confirmation. It's a structural deflection. And it's worth understanding why it's effective. It's technically true and completely non-responsive at the same time. This is confirmed, by the way, this isn't a partisan characterization. Reporting from CNN and Bloomberg Tax confirms the addendum exists and bars the IRS from pursuing any audit of Trump, his family, or affiliated businesses, past or present.
So is that a nice way of saying yes? You're a client, he's your lawyer.
He represents...
You're the secretary. Are you the Secretary of Treasury? Yes is the answer.
The Department of Justice.
Scott Bessent, let me ask you this question, sir. Are you the Secretary?
In my personal capacity, Tom Blanche is not my attorney.
Correct, sir.
Are
you, sir?
For the
Mr.
U.S.
Secretary,
Treasury,
Scott, let me ask it this way. Scott, are you the Secretary of Treasury for the United States government?
Yes.
Appreciate that. The Department of Justice represents the IRS and the Department of Treasury in this lawsuit, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of this addendum? You're telling me DOJ gave the president this without you knowing about it?
Again, they settle on our
All right,
behalf.
well, that's not how the law works, sir. I'm not a lawyer, but you have a bunch of them behind you. You should see the faces they're making at me behind you. They're all scowling at me back over here.
Well, I think that's a different reason, sir.
Well, for whatever it is, they're doing it. Mr. Secretary, my concern is that this addendum's not been getting a lot of attention. There's colleagues on this panel that think this slush fund is a bunch of bullshit. And they've called out to say, get rid of it. Now, people need to say, are you okay with one person in America, because the Secretary of Treasury, I'm guessing, conferred with the Department of Justice, because you're named on this lawsuit, sir. These are all the transactions from the president as well, that I'm going to ask you this next question as well. You were bragging to one of my colleagues that you've been sanctioning people doing bad things in America. people that get sanctioned, like Iran or terrorists, they're told not to do business in the United States with partners. Is that your understanding, sir, me as a layman?
It is.
You hold these bad people accountable. I congratulate you for that. So this little giveaway to President Trump and his family gets them off scot-free. Does every American become part of this addendum? If someone didn't pay their taxes or violated tax law or did bad things, are they told, can't prosecute you, you're good? Everyone going back to the date of this, or is this only for President Trump and his affiliates?
This is the actual question that matters, and it's a simple one. Is enforcement of federal tax law universal, or is it now selectively suspended for one family? Lujan isn't asking about policy preference here. He's asking about equal application of law, which, structurally, is the single credibility asset the United States has spent 80 years exporting as a governance model to the rest of the world. Every time a foreign government's state media wants to argue that Western rule of law talk is hypocrisy, a clip like this is exactly the raw material they're looking for.
Senator, do you have specific knowledge that President Trump's being audited?
Sir, I have specific knowledge of this addendum that you don't know a damn thing about. That is for the Department of Treasury that your lawyer at the Department of Justice signed you up for. The reason I'm asking this question is because President Trump's sons signed a deal, as you know, with World Liberty Financial with a bunch of folks you sanctioned. And now, as part of this, there's an addendum that says President Trump and his kids and anyone affiliated with him, I don't know if it's current wives, former wives, people that just did transactions with him, they're off scot-free. That, you know, that has a new way, a new ring to it, this is scot-free, because the Department of Treasury and the IRS is not going to go after him, sir. This is wrong. This is lawless. I hope our colleagues will look at this addendum. If I could offer this into the record, Mr. Chairman, for those that haven't seen it yet.
Without objection.
This is the part I'd flag as the most consequential detail in the entire exchange, and it's the one getting the least attention. Bessent, earlier in the same hearing, confirmed under his own authority that people doing business with sanctioned entities, Iran, North Korea, cartels get prosecuted. Lujan's point is that the president's own family did business with individuals the administration itself had sanctioned through World Liberty Financial, while the same administration's DOJ was simultaneously drafting a permanent shield against IRS enforcement for that same family. You don't have to take a position on the legal outcome to recognize the pattern. Sanctions enforced against ordinary actors, immunity extended to insiders. That asymmetry is precisely the kind of story that shows up reliably in Chinese and Russian state media within days, not because they care about American tax law, but because it's usable evidence for the argument that Western institutions are performative rather than principled.
Come on, man. There's a better way of doing this, sir. That's all we're saying here. So, look, I appreciate it if you don't want to talk about a lawsuit. That's your prerogative to answer that way. But to say that you as a client, as Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, does not know what the Department of Justice is giving away to people, come on, man. That's just not on the up and up, sir. I hope we can do better.
You don't understand the way the protocol works, and we receive advice and accept their settlements.
You're telling me as the Secretary of U.S. Treasury, you don't know that the President of the United States, who I think you work for, got a sweetheart deal from the Department of Justice, who's your lawyer.
I do know.
You're in line for the presidency, Scott.
I do know that the President of the United States and many of his employees had the largest tax leak in history. And I
know. Here's his filing, sir, of all the insider trading. Right here.
Do you want to apologize on behalf of the American government?
Scott, you should apologize to the American people for fleecing them and giving this away to Donald Trump, man. That's what you should do.
We can agree to disagree.
Senator Warnock.
That we'll agree on.
We can agree to disagree. That's how a cabinet official closed out a question about whether the sitting president received immunity from federal tax enforcement. Not a denial, not a correction of the record, a shrug, dressed up as civility. Here's my actual assessment, and it's not about who you think should have won this exchange. When institutional actors respond to direct rule of law questions with deflection rather than substance, the domestic cost is one thing. Voters can sort that out. The cost I want you to actually register is external. Every authoritarian government Running a legitimacy campaign against liberal democracy needs exactly this kind of material. A documented instance where the world's most powerful democracy visibly struggled to answer whether its laws apply equally to its own head of state's family. That's not a talking point I'm inventing. It's a documented pattern in how state propaganda operations function. They don't need to lie about the West. Increasingly, they just need to clip it. Bessent may well be legally correct that he can't discuss ongoing litigation. That's a defensible position. What isn't defensible, from a credibility standpoint, is a government that hands its adversaries free footage this clean. This hearing wasn't a win or a loss for either party. It was a 5-minute gift to every regime that wants a reason to tell its own population that Western rule of law is a brand, not a practice. That's the actual stake here, and almost nobody covering this story is framing it that way. Marcus Reed, The Reed Assessment. If this reframed the story for you, subscribe. The assessment, not the outrage.